Toma had seen many strange things in space, but this was different his. Ship the Emberlight hovered quietly near a massive old wreck, the derelict ship. Floated at the edge of a dead star system untouched for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, it had no power, no signal, no sign of life, but something about it called to him. Toma wasn't a soldier or a scientist, he was a salvager, someone who searched old ships for useful parts, tech, or forgotten cargo. He parked his small ship near an airlock and made his way inside, stepping carefully over broken wires and cracked panels. Dust floated in the air, unmoving. In the weightless silence, his flashlight flickered across strange symbols on the walls, none he could read for over an hour. He explored empty hallways, dark rooms, and long dead engines. Then he found it at the far end of the ship. Behind a sealed metal door was a chamber. Filled with soft blue light, the air was still and cold. Inside stood 30 tall stasis pods lined up in perfect rows. Each pod was shaped like a crystal, glowing gently from within. Toma's eyes widened. Inside each pod lay a woman, tall, graceful, and unlike anything he had ever seen. Their skin shimmered faintly, almost like pearl, and their faces were calm, like they were only sleeping there. Hair floated gently in the pod fluid, glowing slightly with soft color. Toma didn't move for a moment. He had seen stasis tech before, but nothing like this. These weren't ordinary passengers, their bodies were too perfect, their features too exact. They looked designed. He walked slowly around the chamber, checking each pod. There were no signs of decay, no damage. Each system was still running, though barely. A single old console blinked at the front of the room, its screen flickering weakly. He wiped dust from it and studied the symbols. They meant nothing to him, but the screen had a large button glowing in the center. It was blinking slowly, like a heartbeat. Toma hesitated. Maybe this was a mistake. He didn't know who they were or why they were asleep, but deep down he felt like they weren't dangerous. They looked peaceful, almost too peaceful to be left here forgotten forever. He pressed the button. Nothing happened at first, then the lights dimmed. The chamber rumbled softly. The pods lit up one by one, brighter and brighter. A soft sound filled the air like distant music. Toma stepped back, eyes wide. The fluid inside the pods began to drain. The women's eyes fluttered open. The first one to fully awaken stepped forward. As her pod opened, she took a slow breath, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. She looked at Toma, curious but calm. Her voice was soft and musical, though he couldn't understand the words. One by one, the others followed. Each woman looked around the chamber, then toward Toma. None of them panicked, none of them seemed angry. They all stood tall, moving with quiet grace, like they remembered exactly who they were. The first woman stepped closer. She placed her hand on her chest and spoke again, slower this time. Toma, he said, pointing to himself. She watched him, then smiled faintly. She turned to the others and spoke quickly. They listened, then nodded. Toma didn't know what was coming next, but one thing was clear: these women were not helpless, and they were not ordinary. He had awakened something ancient, something powerful, and now they were ready. The chamber was still filled with soft blue light. Toma stood quietly, not sure what to say or do. The 30 alien women looked around the room, stretching their arms and moving slowly as if waking from a deep dream. Their movements were smooth and calm, not rushed. It was like they were waking from a long sleep, but not confused. The woman who had first spoken stepped forward. Again, her eyes, bright and thoughtful, stayed fixed on Toma. She seemed to study his face, trying to understand him. Then she spoke another word, this time more clearly. Toma, she repeated with a gentle nod. She had learned his name. Toma smiled and nodded back. Yes, Toma. She pointed to herself and said, Lair. Toma repeated, Lair. She smiled. It was a small, peaceful smile, but full of meaning. Behind her, the other women began talking to each other in their language. Their voices were soft and musical, rising and falling like a song. Lyra turned back to Toma. She placed her fingers on a small crystal near her neck, and it lit up suddenly. Toma heard a new voice in his ear. It sounded like her voice, but now he could understand. Translator active, she said, blinking. Once your language is simple, we are learning fast. Toma was shocked. You understand me? LRA nodded. We are either born, we were created to learn, to protect, to serve. PC frowned. Created by who? Lyra looked around the chamber. Her expression turned a little sad. By those who are gone now, she said softly. Our makers are. No more. Time has passed far beyond what we expected. Toma slowly sat on a nearby crate, his mind spinning. He had just come looking for salvage. Now he was speaking to someone from a forgotten age, someone not even born in the way humans were. What were you doing in stasis? He asked. Lyra looked at her sisters. We We're never finished, never called, we were meant to awaken only when needed, but this signal never came. Toma looked at the control panel, so I was the one who woke. You activated the last safety key. She said that key meant danger was near. Or help was needed. Toma scratched the back of his neck. I didn't mean to, I just pressed a blinking button. Lara gave a soft laugh. It was the first real sign of emotion from her. Sometimes that is how destiny works. The other Etherborn had now all gathered around. Some were watching the control panels, others were trying to fix weak lights and broken systems. Without being told, they were already working like a team. Toma stood. Your ship is badly damaged. It's been floating in space for a very long time. Lyra looked up. How long? Toma hesitated. At least 1,000 years, maybe more. None of them looked surprised. One of the Etherborn, near the wall, placed her hand on a screen. Symbols lit up, then faded. Again, we must leave. LRA said this vessel cannot fly. Power is low, but we are not lost. You found us for a reason. Toma nodded slowly. I have a ship, small but working. I can take you somewhere safe. Lara looked at her sisters, then back at him. Then we follow you. Toma, he didn't know why, but those words made his heart beat faster. He had no army, no great plan, but now he had 30 powerful beings looking to him as their guide. Toma looked at the stars through the cracked window. Everything had just changed. Toma guided the Etherborn through the narrow halls of his small ship, the Imberlite. It was not made for 30 passengers, especially not ones who carried the presence of ancient royalty. The ship creaked under the weight, but Toma didn't mind. For now, it was the only way to get them off the broken stasis ship. They sat quietly as the Ember Light drifted away from the derelict wreck. LRA and the others watched the stars through the side windows, their eyes filled with a strange mix of calm and curiosity. Toma sat at the front controls, typing a path into the navigation system. He picked a quiet planet not far away, a neutral trade world where no one would ask too many questions. Lur stood behind him, her hands folded. We remember this galaxy, she said softly, but it has changed. Toma looked up. You've been asleep for a very long time. She nodded. We feel that time inside us like a storm behind a wall. He didn't fully understand, but he could see the weight in her eyes. Suddenly, a soft beep came from the ship's dashboard. Toma leaned forward. A signal was coming through, weak but close. What is it? LRA asked. Toma adjusted the scanner. A small probe. It's following us. He pressed a few buttons and an image appeared. A small round machine with blinking red lights was floating behind them, scanning the ship. It's not one of mine, Toma muttered, and it's not from your old ship either. LRA stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. That design, I know it. Corvette. Toma frowned. Corvin. She turned toward him. They were made after us, built by another people, ones who tried to copy the Etherborn design, but they chose power over peace. Toma looked at the screen again. So they're not friendly, no. LRA said they were unstable, driven by logic and control. We were built to protect life. They were built to command it. Toma's fingers moved quickly. He activated the ship's jammer and tried to lose the signal. The probe flickered, then vanished from the screen. Gone? He asked. For now, Lyra replied. No, we're awake. Toma leaned back. That's not good. Lyra didn't speak for a moment, then she turned to the others and gave a short signal. Several Etherborn stepped forward, each placing their hands on glowing crystals on their necks. Their eyes flashed once, then calmed. What are they doing? Toma asked. LRA answered, reactivating their internal systems, memory, knowledge, language. We were made to adapt, to help, but now we may have to defend. Toma stood and walked to the center of the room. You said you were made for peace. What does that mean? LRA placed a hand on a nearby wall. A small panel slid open, revealing a smooth metal tablet. She touched it and a hologram appeared. It showed images from long ago, giant cities in the sky, glowing gardens, ships moving through peaceful space. Then came a change. Dark machines wore a storm of fire, and finally the stasis pods. We were placed in sleep. LRA said to wait for a time when hope was needed again. Toma stared at the hologram. Maybe that time is now. LRA met his gaze. Maybe that is why you found us. The ship continued on its path, heading toward the quiet planet, but Toma knew the quiet would not last. Someone had seen them. Someone would come looking, and when they did, he would not be facing it alone. He had 30 powerful allies beside him, and they were ready for anything. The small planet below was quiet and peaceful. It had no large cities, no armies, and no heavy traffic, just a few trading posts and small colonies. Toma landed the Emberlite in a hidden docking bay near the edge of a green valley. He didn't want attention, not yet. The Etherborn stepped out one by one, breathing in the fresh air. The sun was soft here. The sky Was light purple with two small moons rising above the hills. Lyra looked around and nodded. This place is quiet, she said. Good for learning, good for preparing. Toma smiled. I come here sometimes to rest. No one asks questions. They set up a temporary base in an old research building. It had been empty for years. The Aetherborn moved quickly, fixing lights, cleaning rooms, and bringing systems back online in a few hours. The place looked like it was meant for them. Toma connected his ship's computer to the station's data systems. We can start learning more about the current galaxy, he told Lyra. Languages, maps, new technology. LRA touched a panel and smiled. We learn fast. For the next 2 days, the Aetherborn studied. They moved like dancers, calm, focused. Never tired. They learned modern trade routes, recent history, new planets, and how the galaxy had changed since they last woke. But on the third day, something strange happened. A deep sound echoed through the valley. A strange ship, black and sharp like a blade, came through the clouds. It moved silently but with clear purpose. Toma ran to the roof and stared up. That's not a local ship. LRA joined him. Her eyes narrowed. Corvin, the ship landed outside the valley, far from any towns. Then a small drone flew toward the building. It hovered near the entrance, scanning everything. Toma grabbed a signal jammer and shut it down. Lara stepped forward. They are testing us, watching. What do they want? Toma asked. She looked at the drone on the ground to know if we are weak. Later that night, a message came. It appeared on every screen, every device, even the walls of the station. Return the Aetherborn. They do not belong. Peace is not your purpose. Submit or face correction. The message was signed with a symbol, a red circle with 3 lines through it. Toma didn't recognize it, but LRA did. They are not just machines now, she said quietly. They have built a voice, a command, but no heart. Toma crossed his arms. Are we safe here? No, LRA said, but we are not afraid. The Aetherborn gathered in the main hall. Toma stood with them. He didn't have weapons like they did, only his ship, his knowledge, and his will, but they trusted him. What do we do? He asked. Lara stepped forward. We show them that we are not forgotten. We show them that hope still walks. The Aetherborn activated their defense systems. Small drones flew from their hands. Shields of light appeared on their arms. Their crystals glowed brighter than before. Toma had never seen anything like it. They looked like peacekeepers, but also protectors. They think you control us, LRA said to Toma. They are wrong. Toma nodded. Let them come. Well, show them what waking up the Aetherborn really means. Outside, the black ship sat still, but not for long. The black Corvin ship began to move. Its engines hummed low, sending vibrations through the ground. A ramp lowered slowly, and 5 figures stepped out. Tall, silver-armored machines with red glowing eyes. They walked in a perfect line, without speaking, without pause. Toma stood at the edge of the base, watching with LRA beside him. The other Aetherborn stood behind, quiet but ready. They don't waste time, Toma said. LRA nodded. They never do. The lead Corin stepped forward. Its voice came out cold and flat. Return the Aetherborn. This unit will escort them. Resistance is not logical. Toma stepped forward, trying to hide the nervous feeling in his chest. They're not going anywhere. They woke up free. They are property of the lost cycle. The machine said. You are not authorized. They're not property, Toma said, his voice firm. Now they're people. LRA raised her hand. A soft blue light formed in her palm. We are not yours. We were made for peace, but we do not fear war. The Corvin paused, its head tilted slightly as if confused. Peace is no longer required. Obedience is efficient. One of the Aetherborn named surped forward beside LRA. Obedience is not life, she said, and we choose life. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the Corin raised their arms. Energy sparked from their hands. Before Toma could react, the Aetherborn moved in a flash of light. Shields of energy formed in front of them. The first blast from the Corvin hit the shield and bounced off, crashing into the ground behind. The Aetherborn responded, sending waves of soft blue energy that pushed the machines backward, but not to harm, just to stop them. Toma watched in awe. The Aetherborn didn't attack with rage. Their movements were smooth, controlled. They didn't want to destroy. They only wanted to protect. The Corvin stepped back. Their eyes flickered. Resistance noted. The lid one said. Returned later with full force. The machines turned and walked back to their ship. The ramp closed. Then the ship rose into the air and disappeared into the sky. Toma let out a breath. He didn't realize he was holding. That's it, he asked for now. LRA said. They test. Next time they return to take. Sarah looked at the others. We must prepare the others. Toma turned to LRA. Others, there are more Aetherborn, she said, hidden across the stars, left sleeping in case of great need. The Corvin may search for them too. Toma Nodded slowly, so we find them first. LRA looked at him with quiet approval. Yes, we will need all of us if we are to stand against what comes. They returned to the base and began to plan. Toma worked with the Etherborn to study old maps, secret stasis codes, and lost data from before the fall. The galaxy was wide, and many stasis pods were hidden well, but the Etherborn had memory beyond human understanding. Talman knew this journey would not be easy, but he also knew he wasn't alone. La walked beside him. You gave us freedom, she said softly. Now we give you our strength. He looked around at the shining faces of the 30. Etherborn, calm, wise, and strong. They were not just passengers, now they were a family, a team, and somewhere out there more waited to be awakened. Toma worked late into the night. Inside the base's control room, screens glowed softly, filled with old maps, stasis records, and encrypted data. LRA stood nearby watching silently as he searched. The others were resting or training, preparing for whatever came next. Suddenly, one screen blinked. A soft sound rang out like a voice, broken and weak, trying to be heard. Toma leaned forward. It's a signal, he said, coming from a deep sector far from trade routes. LRA stepped closer. Can you trace it? Trotting, Toma replied, typing fast. The signal was buried in noise, but something about it felt familiar. Then the sound became clear for just a moment. Unit Theta, status unknown, still waiting. Toma's eyes widened. It's another stasis group. LRA nodded slowly. Unit Theta was our sister group left behind during the final days. They were placed on a dark moon far from known space. Toma checked the coordinates. We can reach it, but it's in a restricted zone. No maps, no stations, no help if something goes wrong. Lyra's eyes were calm. Then we must go within an hour. The Emberite was ready again. This time, only half of the Etherborn joined the mission. The others stayed behind to protect the base. LRA, Sierra, and 8 more boarded the ship with Toma. They moved with quiet focus. They knew this mission mattered. As the ship left the peaceful planet behind, Toma stared out the window. Why now? Why is the signal only coming now? Lyra answered, maybe they waited. Maybe they believed someone would hear them one day. Toma thought about that, about how lonely it must be to wait in the dark for hundreds of years, hoping someone is out there. He was glad he had heard them. After a long journey through empty space, they reached the dark moon. It was quiet and cold. No cities, no signs of life, just a rocky surface and an ancient structure buried beneath. The Etherborn stepped onto the ground first, scanning for danger. LRA pointed toward a crack in the rocks. There, she said, the stasis chamber is below. They found an old entrance half covered by sand and stone. It took time to clear it, but finally a door appeared. LRA placed her hand on the surface. Her crystal glowed. The door opened slowly with a low hum. Inside, the air was still. Lights flickered dimly. Rows of stasis pods lined the walls, 20 in total, but something was wrong. 3 pods were shattered. Toma stepped back. Were they broken from the inside? LRA examined the damage. No, forced open. Someone came before us. They moved carefully through the chamber. The remaining pods were still active, though weak. The faces inside looked peaceful, as if still dreaming. Suddenly Sarah called out, here. A sign. She held up a small metal piece, shaped like a triangle with 3 red lines. Toma recognized it. Corin, they found this place, LRA said softly, but they didn't take them. They only destroyed. Toma's jaw tightened. We're not letting them destroy anything else. He walked to the control panel and activated the awakening sequence. Lights turned blue. The pods began to open one by one. The first Etherborn woman opened her eyes, then another and another. Lara stepped forward. You are safe now. You are not alone. The newly awakened Etherborn looked around, confused at first, but then they saw LRA and they understood. They were found. They were free. Toma looked at them all and smiled. Welcome back. The darkness of the moon seemed less heavy. Now light had returned, but in the shadows far above, a Corvin satellite blinked and sent a signal high above the dark moon. In the silence of space, the Corvin satellite finished its scan. It had seen the awakening. It had seen the light return to the forgotten place. With no sound, it sent a sharp signal into the stars far away. In a cold control room deep inside a metal planet, the message arrived. A tall machine with a glass face turned its head. Its red eyes brightened. Second awakening confirmed, it said. Behind it, more machines came to life. Their steps echoed as they moved through long steel halls. The Corvin were not going to wait anymore. Back on the moon, the ember light lifted off with the newly awakened Etherborn from Unit Theta. The ship was full now, but the space inside felt calm, like a temple floating among the stars. The new Etherborn were quiet and thoughtful. Their eyes sparkled as they listened to LRA speak about what had happened. Toma Stood at the controls. I set a course back to the base planet. It's the safest place for now. LR Ray nodded. We must join together before we face them again. The ship moved through quiet space, stars blinking outside the windows for a moment. Everything felt peaceful, then without warning the ship's lights dimmed. Toma jumped. What's happening? An alarm rang. Red lights flashed. Something's behind us, he said, quickly checking the screen. A ship just dropped out of stealth. No id tag. It's Corvin. The others gathered around as the enemy ship grew closer on the radar. It was fast, larger than before, and shaped like a spear. They followed the signal. LRA said they knew we would come. Toma looked at the weapons panel. Were not strong enough to fight the ship alone. The Etherborn didn't panic. Sierra placed her hand on the wall. Her crystal glowed. Let us help, she said. Toma hesitated. But how? This ship doesn't have battle systems. We don't need your systems, Lyra replied. We are the system. One by one, the Etherborn placed their hands on the ship's walls. The air shimmered. The light stopped flashing. A soft blue energy began to move through the ship like a heartbeat. Thomas stared as his ship's dashboard lit up with symbols he had never seen before. What are you doing? He asked, awakening the old link. Lyra said, this ship is made by human hands, but it listens to us now. Outside the Corvin ship fired. A red beam of energy flew toward them, but before it could strike, the ember light spun sharply, avoiding the blast with impossible speed. The shields held. Toma gripped the controls. Did I do that? LRA smiled. No, we did that. Another blast came. This time, the Etherborn responded. A glowing wave of energy shot from the emberite, pushing the enemy ship back. It wasn't a weapon to destroy, it was a force to hold and protect. Inside the Corvin ship, confusion spread. Their scans failed. Their controls became slow. They were not fighting machines now. They were facing something older, something made with heart. Toma